tuned into NWCLV.FM. I am DJ King Cobra. I move slick, strike quick, hit you once, and it's over. And right now, we have Real Talk with Jayson, Dixon, featuring the guy 720. This is part two. Holla back at me. Go on, get him, Jay.
Hey everybody, welcome back to
You dig
right.
what I'm saying? I can't scream a hood, you know
Right,
what I'm
'cause
saying?
I don't belong
But
there.
right, I don't, so I've been in a lot of places, and then I was doing a lot of PI. I was in the game, man, and then I moved to Vegas, and I met this shorty, and she wasn't really built for
What you
movement
did,
on
yeah.
the concrete.
Right.
You dig what I'm saying? So, and she already had a gig. So I said, I do the relationship thing. I already had the Black Man's Bible out, and then I put out Real Nigga Etiquette, and then I wanted to do something small, something that was small and catchy. The Kicked Out of Heaven series was actually only supposed to be a 75-page book.
Oh wow.
With a little DVD.
But it went deeper.
Right, but I hit a blank space. I had already read books on the subject, so there was books on it already out. You dig
Right.
what I'm saying? And it didn't feel new. I'm a cat that likes new, to bring something new to the game. I don't like shuffling through the garbage.
Right, and just trying to recycle whatever.
Right, recycle what
done.
everybody's
Yeah.
already done. So, and I needed a career. You understand?
That's the difference.
Right, and I wasn't going to be working an hourly job. I wanted a career, and that's because my sister has a career, my mom got master's degrees, my dad worked in the Department of Defense, so, they had careers,
Right.
So I was going to fit the same line, even though I was thrown in the basket and thrown up the river like on some Moses shit. You dig what I'm
Right,
saying?
gotcha.
I was still going to be the position I was raised to know. And due to that fact, and then I already knew what the litigations of the streets was. I'm in a new city, ain't no new faces up here.
Right.
Who the niggas that you done did dirt with in high school and all of that, they usually trail along with you
Right.
for the course of your days. You
Yep.
dig what I'm saying?
Yep.
Unless there was situations that happened in court or whatever the case. You know what I'm saying? So, wasn't no new faces. I wasn't into building no new relationships, and I always attracted top-notch, top-tier, beautiful women.
Right.
So, and that's another problem. You know what I'm saying? I
think we all agree on that one.
That
come with his own issue.
Right. So I just secluded, wrote books, maintained my family, maintained my shorty, and that was that, man. I had to do something that was invigorating, something that was going to catch people's attention, and then I also felt like I was sort of being attacked. We're all being attacked in this sense,
That's what so as I'm starting to read the books, let's talk about that.
Go ahead.
As I'm starting to read the books, I'm starting to understand the spiritual. We are all in a spiritual warfare every day, right? And we don't know it, whether it's mentally, whether it's physically, or whether it's from what other people are putting out to us. So tell me, how did you start to go down that line? Because in the books you talk about it in an indirect way. You don't really directly address it. You more or less, from what I'm seeing, I'm not completely done with the book, so it may come back to where you are. But from the beginning, I'm seeing that you indirect one religion, indirectly, I don't want to say attack because that's harsh. You indirectly show spirituality through how it was created based on the images that you provide and where it is today.
Okay, I think I get what where you're going. You must be referring to the epigenetics,
Yes,
and all of that. Okay, look, we are being forced into texting and applications. Coca-Cola, dollar menu.
Right.
So basically, you're stupid, and we're gonna maintain your stupidity. Is how I felt. And I'm going to produce this 3-volume series to let you know
that I'm not. But I see what's going on.
You don't got stupidity on everybody, partner. You may have 90% of these niggas, 99.9 of these niggas. You don't got me. You dig what I'm saying? And I know that there's other brains out here that are not in that lane as well, and may be free balling it, freelancing it on their survival, and bobbing and weaving, all of the bullshit that's coming through, whether that's through media, whether that's through food, whether that's through beverages.
Right.
You don't think that you got everybody. You ain't whooped everybody's ass up here.
Right.
And I'm not stupid, and we're not all stupid.
Right.
But due to the fact that you were so detailed and you've been so consistent for hundreds of years on how you've operated and keeping people divided, developing new companies, starting wars, cold wars, developing weapons,
and that's some of the things that I like that you showed, how it's been you were able to go find the history.
Yeah, who are you motherfuckers to be able to have this extensive intelligence and continuously move like that? Go ahead.
No. I'm listening to you because you're getting what I'm saying. You, from what I saw and what I've been going through, skimming through, going to pick up pieces here. Then I said finally, because I'm a skimmer first, and then I go back and say, okay, now let's read.
Right.
So as I skim through, I catch certain things, and as I'm going through the first book, just the first one, I'm looking at the fact that you had the ability to sit back and say, let me go show history. You don't believe what I'm saying? Let me back it up. That's what separates you. Did you do that on purpose, or was it something that you didn't want to be seen as? Because most people would take your books and say they're just all conspiracy. But when I look at them,
you can't say that about those. Right.
I'm just saying, yeah.
Right.
But some people can look at them and be like, hear you talk or hear what you're saying and be like, oh, this is all just conspiracy. Mm-hmm. Until you get down into the book.
Right.
Then you're like, but conspiracy normally doesn't come with proof. So is that why you did the history study that you did, the books that you did? Because I can tell that you actually did real study to find this.
I understand a lot of things about a lot of things, and a lot of that is previewed in the Black Man's Bible. So, for instance, like you're in the weather section, right? And weather is a thing that nobody can control, right? So it basically puts you in like an ant farm, and you are now the subject that's being operated. Now, who was doing the operation? Because it does give a energy off, like somebody's doing this shit to them. In old Europe, when it came to the multitude of different weather experiences that they went through that were extremely traumatic, that designed their psyche to operate in the way they do. That weather section was the last section that they got put together on the book.
Okay.
Like I studied everything else and did everything else.
But this one,
the weather was last because when I went through all of the other subjects that I went through, it would always be one little weather thing mentioned here, one little weather thing mentioned here. Then it stacked on me like, yo, what's with the weather, And then it would be phenomenal to be a catcher, a hook and sink for the first chapter. When you read books, you have to have a dynamic first chapter, right? So I'm like,
especially for me,
right? And I'm like, yo. It almost gives a sympathetic energy. You sort of sympathize with them because it was weather. Yeah. So it was basically like a punishment almost. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and if you look at history and you look at the Bible, it was always that way. It was either locusts, it was either
the seven things in Egypt. Right.
You either looked at those type of things, it was plagues. And plagues, if you don't know, plagues are only spread by rain. So, and I'll give you an example, a real good example, guys, for those that are watching. So I had a pit bull, I had a brand new puppy new dog while I was raising my dog, I got, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I had a dog named Scarlet. She was a blue mixed with a red nose, so she had a big structure, whatever. My uncle used to always, at my house, at one of my houses in Dallas where my uncle lived at, where we have the dogs at, there's only one bathroom in the house for the whole house, but it's only a 2-bedroom home.
Mm-hmm.
So if somebody was in the bathroom, my uncle would be drunk and he would go out and pee in the backyard. Well, wasn't affecting the dogs until we had a big rainstorm
Mm-hmm.
and a big thunderstorm,
Mm-hmm.
right? The next day after the thunderstorm, I come outside, my dog is throwing up in her cage, she's sick. People, if you don't understand parvo comes from us. When animals digest our liquids or something out of our body, that's what parvo comes from.
Oh, okay.
That's how they catch it. The reason why I'm bringing this to a T is because of what your book was talking about when it comes to the weather. Everything was for punishment. Everything was weather related. Like plagues are weather related. It's not just something you can cast onto the world. It has to have water. It has to have the right conditions to even spread.
Right.
So that's what you're getting at in the book. That's why I wanted to give the example, because most people understand dogs.
Right.
And understand how parvo
And let
works.
me put this out too real quick. That's why it's titled Kicked Out of Heaven.
Yes.
Is because they didn't know if they were being punished by God directly for their social activity. They didn't know if the devil, if God sent the devil to punish them for their social activity. Like they had a lot of dice houses and alcoholism going on. There was a lot of prostitutes and brothels, and the conditions were extreme,
Right.
And then, you also got hay all over the road, pigs and horses shit everywhere, carcasses. So, it was a lot of crazy
They
shit.
didn't clean that shit up.
Right. And then they didn't know if it was just the devil here directly that was just tricking them into all of these different scenarios. So they felt like they were being kicked out of heaven. It was almost, that was the energy that was coming from them. Because when you read the material, you can hear them whispering in your ear. That shit is direct. The cases that I got in that book, and 90% of that book is written from the books in the 1500s, 1600s.
Yeah.
Okay? And that's why it's all cited in the back of the bibliography.
Yep.
So
I scammed it. I looked.
Right, yeah,
I'm a researcher, so at the end of the day, I got to make sure I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
I tell people, I've been telling you since you gave me the book, like, they look like encyclopedias, but in order to understand how to market you and how to move you, I have to understand what the books are about. It's impossible for me to do that, and I tell people all the time, it's impossible for me to help anyone if I don't understand the brand, if I don't understand what we're doing.
Right. And the overall gist of it was, I want to know how you think. You've kicked too much ass on this planet. I want to know how you think, and I want to know how that thought pattern was developed.
Right.
Okay? And we always hear about Greece, we hear about Rome, but we do not hear anything about that medieval. You might hear a fact about a King Edward. You may hear a fact about a Queen Elizabeth, but you do not get what the everyday man was seeing and witnessing, living in the medieval times. Well, you really don't
because
think about Rome or
it
Greece
wasn't
either.
set up like that, because it's more of a story, and just coming from a political science major, it was more of a story of, we only want to really know about what's going to benefit us. We don't never talk about you hardly ever, let's be truthful, in this day and age, you hardly hear about the witch hunts.
Right.
That you don't understand that the witch hunts was actually put on because the Bible said that women should not know knowledge, and those that did know knowledge and understood it were considered witches. Like, those two things, they never correlate those things together.
Mm-hmm.
They just say, well, they were witches, and when you ask, you're like, well, how did you determine they were witches? If a woman could count back then, she was considered a witch. If she could read back then, she was considered a witch.
Let me show you something that's funny, because you brought up the witches, right? So, and that was one of my things that I had to go through. I knew that was a road, a bridge I had to cross while doing the research, right? So I get to it, and they're talking about animals and how the woman uses these animals as they're called familiars.
Yep.
And the animal is actually a devil in the shape of an animal that goes out and handles the witch's maleficia, and then comes back and gives report or does whatever deed that she wants to carry out. And I was just like, I was sitting there thinking about the shit, then pop, it hit me in the head. I said, B, these bros got all types of dogs and all types of cats in their home. Like, that's what's going on right now. And there's a whole nother science to it. Like, when a woman has animals in her home and the animals spray and they give off certain scents, they mess up the air. Yeah. So if she was to invite you inside her home, it automatically blocks your attempt from trying to court her or trying to romance her.
I was told that about cats. That's why most people don't like cats.
Right, because you can't pick up her natural scent.
Yeah, most cats are the ones. Cats mark their... If you don't know about cats, they're not like dogs. Cats mark their territory whether you train them or not. Mm-hmm. You can train them to go to their box. You can train them to do whatever in where you think they're doing it at. But cats, when they're in heat, they miss to wherever. And right. It does not matter. That's why when you go into a person's home who has a lot of cats, no matter what you touch and what you smell, it's always going to smell like pee. I don't care how much they clean or what they do. Right. That's why in most homes, if you have cats and you move out of that home, they damn near tear that house up. Mm-hmm. To remodel it.
Right, and that's also the same for dogs, because a female dog could be in heat and another dog could smell that 2-3 miles away. Right. But your human nose doesn't. Our human nose doesn't pick up certain scents that animals put out because it's not for our dimension. It's only for their procreation dimension. You dig what I'm saying? So and man, when I could go down some real hardcore details.
We're not gonna go.
But I
just want to give them enough so that we can.
Right, but let me say this one little part. When I put that book out and I wrote all that, that's when all that witch stuff dropped out of society. Remember a couple years ago? Women were walking around here with the True Blood talking about they witches and this and that, But when I wrote that book, all of that shit stopped, okay? Because, they knew it was coming back and they bullshit.
And that's the whole thing with me. The biggest thing with me when I started reading the book, just so that we can kind of wrap up, because I want to say the next book, because once I get there, that's another interview.
You can drag me through it all, because there's a lot in volume 1, so go ahead.
So, as I started going through there, and you talk about the weather, and then I talk about, it was in one of the books I saw a picture of a dragon, and I always talk about every animal that we say is imaginary has once been on this planet. And they don't talk about it. Nobody, they deem it as, let's talk about it falsely, right? Let's talk about it in a characteristic point of view. For you to go grab that knowledge, where did you get the dragon pit images from? Because these are actual skeletons of a dragon. These are actual, from what I read.
You're talking about the one in the jar, the baby one in the jar? That was actually found in a home in England somewhere, Scotland somewhere. That's
I can't remember the details. Right. It's all documented. That's what I like too, is that you not only did the research, but you went back and what is it called? You went back and gave reference to everything that you got it from.
I'm not gonna come on. This is highly detailed information. And then not only that, I want you to hear it directly from the horse's mouth, so that excludes me from sitting up here trying to boast and brag oh yeah, me. I pulled all this out of my ass. Nah, this stuff is coming from Cambridge, Oxford. It's coming over here from Yale, from Harvard, my nigga, and a lot of other stuff that's coming from great-great-grandma's, village house out in the middle of Scotland, out in the middle of Ireland somewhere, that picture I found while doing the research, because dragons is an interesting thing, and dragons are, once you go into that thin line that's between the old world and the new world, you run into images of dragons. It doesn't matter if you're dealing with China, Japan, Turk.
They're all considered a different symbol in different areas.
Right, but then at the same time, like they say, there wasn't no dinosaur bones until the late 1800s. So they said when they found so-called large bones of that nature in the old world, they automatically called them all dragons. They didn't know what they were. They didn't call them a Tyrannosaurus Rex or or this.
Well, they weren't able to identify them until.
Right. Yeah. So, but
they would find out. Let's correct that, because most people would be like that, but they were. They'll come after you. So, guys, what he means to say is they didn't know how to quantify them or what they were before the late 1800s. That's when we started realizing how to quantify what dinosaurs were compared to regular dinosaurs.
Right, the old world didn't have archaeologists.
Thank you.
And that's the separation line. Right, is archaeology. So I thought it was real interesting, and when I ran into a lot of the information, on dragons. I did find that picture, and it was potent. And that picture is in the back of Volume 3.
Yeah.
So Volume 3 is designed like a museum. Actually, all 3 books are designed like a museum. Okay, so I'm just a host in a museum.
Right, you're just walking through. And
right, I'm walking you through, and I'm letting you hear the story from them. So all those, so like for instance, the weather section, that is all chroniclers. Those are chroniclers that were underneath those kings.
Yeah,
and those specific time periods that kept track.
I got that when I read it.
Right, you could tell by the style it was written in.
Yeah.
Right, that's why the medieval, I wanted you to feel and know and smell and hear the medieval when you're reading it. I'm not describing it for you. You know what I'm saying? You will hear the screams. And
that's why I thought this second interview was so important, because as I started reading it, I'm like, man, we got to talk about this, because this is stuff that, to know that colleges are using your books right now as referral tools to what they're teaching in class, that's, you don't find too many people like that, especially people that aren't doctors, that aren't PhDs, because that's mainly the time that your books get, I need to use this as a reference.
Right. And I dug up a lot of stuff that was buried underneath the cathedrals and the synagogues of the old world, that they really didn't want. I guess not want, but it was just forgotten is the better word, okay? And another thing I understand about adapting the white male thought is that success is a white male concept, okay? It's just like football is a concept, or traveling is another concept. They're all concepts. A lot of people don't understand what that is. Concepts like a software running. White males develop this money picture, they develop this success picture, they develop this CEO picture, okay? This president, vice president, and all this. So guess what? If you want a shortcut to get into that form of thought, guess where you gotta go? You have to adapt white male thinking. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? And that's all the university is. But they're not going to tell you that directly. They're going to paint it up with the coat of arms and shields.
So I did a document. Mm-hmm. So I wrote a document about my dad before he passed. We have a group called Men of Tomorrow that still runs today in Dallas. And one of the time he asked me to go and run the group. And I wrote a deck. So it's called Losing Your Throne is the series that I teach. But everybody thought I was so crazy because I'm in front of pastors like T.D. Jakes. I'm in front of pastors like Tony Evans. Because they all used to come, and what Men of Tomorrow was older men teaching the younger generation about marriage. And you can have, it's a group where we can sit down and just talk about, hey, I've been married, bro, you going through it, I can tell you how to get around it. Things that men don't do, right? So one of the theories that I talked about is called Losing Your Throne. And one of the things that I tell people all the time is like, listen, when you talk about Jesus, you have to talk about him and the man as being a man, because when he came down here, he was a man. He was a God, but he was a man. He was in a sense of, he was here to look at all our problems, look at everything we did. Because it's like, if you were my dad and my little brother was getting in trouble and you're tired of dealing with my little brother, I'm going to go over here and say, hey, bro, tell me what's going on, so I can come back and report to you like, hey, Dad, you can't be so harsh on him. He's going bad. It's like Jesus pleading for her. But if you never know what a person is going through or what they're going through, so this is the concept of what it was really. So when I read your book and it talks about the theory that you talk about, I look back and I'm like, man, during those times, so you talk about the paganisms, you talk about all the stuff that we went through, a lot of stuff that you put out there is stuff that people just aren't willing to, lack of a better word, accept,
face, understand as a reality. But with the energy, when you're reading it, the visions pop up as you're reading it, right? Because it was a real scenario. Those images are still in the atmosphere of, ancient Egypt is still in the atmosphere. The ancient Maya is still in the atmosphere. So if you get to the detailed information of that time period, guess what's going to show up? You're going to be tapped into those images, and all of that shit's going to show up in your mind, and now you're synced with it, and you can operate with it. So yeah, a lot of people don't want to deal with the reality, but another deep chord on why I wrote those books and why they're brutal and violent and in your face like that is because guess what? How long have you supported horror movies, America?
Forever.
You've been supporting these I don't like them. Excuse my French once again. But I don't like horror movies. And that's part of the reason why I wrote this stuff. Is because when we look at, you know, the library of any civilization, you don't find those gory images
No.
like what we have produced as America. You see what I'm saying? So what is in your mind frame, Hollywood? And I can tell a lot of this stuff was taught and premeditated. So when you look at a movie like Saw, the ingenuity for machinery that you saw on the movie Saw is directly correlated with executioner, development of torture tactics
Right.
in old Europe. You see what I'm saying? But guess what? The blacks in America don't know that. The Mexicans in America don't know that. The Hindus in America don't know that. There's a lot. The Puerto Ricans, the Jamaicans,
Can you say that
we
it's
don't
because
know.
of a lot of overseas? I know just from friends that I got over there that grew up, they don't put that in their society. They don't put out
Exactly.
the worst parts where America does.
Right.
America has TV shows based on the worst things.
Right. So I want to know, where'd you get this shit from?
Right.
You know, and I went and found it, you know, and then I went and found several other things that were attached to it. And you do have to stand guilty for all of that because you are supporting it today. And guess what? That's an option. Okay? So the way the white race has raised America, we could all be scientists. When I graduated out of high school, I could have known about psychology, sociology, and anthropology then, and I would have never went down these routes.
Right.
You see? But when I graduated high school, I didn't know nothing about that. It was, oh, nigga, put on some boots to get up in this warehouse, or you gonna go do some crime.
I agree with
You're
you.
gonna take your ass to jail. Right. Those were the options that was socially pushed towards me. You see what I'm saying? If I would have known about astrology, cosmology, biology, and all these other ologies that I love and I take dear to heart, that you could see through the books that I've written, then guess what? I would have been in that area and you would have been able to control my route the entire time. But you kept those subjects away from me. Regardless.
So,
I haven't met one black male who has graduated high school and knew what psychology was.
Nah, they didn't teach us that.
Or knew what accounting was, knew what biology was.
We knew what a counselor was.
Knew what
But we had in our mind.
We
that
knew what a sheriff was.
Yeah, we knew what a counselor was.
You
Like,
know?
but we had in our mind, like, if I could become a counselor, I'm just coming right back to high school. I'm good.
Right.
We wasn't told about the higher levels.
Right. So, you know, I call that the indigenous backfire. That's a backfire. You fucked up there. So, and I love these subjects, and I got into it some way, somehow, because my family are book readers. You know what I'm saying? So, because my family's book readers, my sister's a book reader, I stayed reading books because she went to college before me.
Right.
And my sister's 3 years younger than me. And I was already at my mom's house. I was like, nah, you're not going to do this. There's a thing called chain of command. There's a pecking order. There's seniority, my nigga. So you ain't finna be up in no dorm at no university. I'm at mom's house, nigga. It ain't finna work like that. So my mom she had a library of books. I just...
Right.
The Bible, I read the Bible, the whole Bible 3 times, 4 times a day.
Right.
I had all types of books and Bible map and Bible dictionaries and all of this while I was reading it. So this is what we gonna do since you put my back up against the wall.
Right.
You
Okay,
know?
man. Well, we gonna tune out, man. I thank you for coming back on this first segment.
Yeah.
We got 2 more segments to go of this series.
Yeah.
I thank you for us going through that, guys. Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk with Jayson Dixon. Hope you guys are learning something from this. Tell them where to go find your books at, my man.
Go to kickedoutofheaven.com. Go to theblackmansbible.com. Okay, and that's where you can find all my books available. All right.
All right, and thank you guys for tuning in. Cap, take us out, man.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Talk with Jayson Dixon. And if you're in the Las Vegas area, stop by Nevada Wellness Center. We're the only 100% black-owned premium cannabis dispensary in Nevada. Visit us at www.nevadawellnesscenters.com. And I am DJ King Cobra. I move slick, strike quick, hit you once, and it's over. And DJ, that's digital journalist, because I don't jock nothing. You heard me? On top, we hot. For sure.
All right, guys. Thanks for everybody coming in and out. Guys, I've been seeing everybody just jump on and off. I think the signal back here, I'm going to have to figure this out.